the methods of separation. So today topic is methods of separation. So there are different types of method of separation. First method is hand picking. And what do you mean by hand picking? In this method, we pick unwanted substance with the help of our hands. So this process is called hand picking. So this is the first method of separation. And there are different types of methods of separation. First method is hand picking. Next is activity 2. So we will discuss the activity 2. And what is activity 2? Bring a packet of food grain purchased from a shop to the classroom. So we will take a packet of food grain and we will purchase these packet of food grain from a shop, and we will bring these food grain packet in the classroom. Firstly, we will purchase the food grain packet from the shop, and then we will bring these packet to the classroom. Now spread the grains on a sheet of paper. So firstly, we will spread these grains on a sheet of paper. Do you find only one kind of grain on the sheet of paper? Are these pieces of stones, husks, broken grain, particles of any other grain in it? Now remove with your hand and the piece of stone, husk and other grains from it. So this is the first method of separation. First is hand picking. Firstly, we will purchase a packet of food grain, and then we will put this packet of food grain from the shop, and then we will take it into the classroom. Now spread the grains on a sheet of paper. Then we will spread these type of grains on a sheet of paper. Do you find only one kind of grain on the sheet of paper? So we will see the fine grains of particles on a sheet of paper. Firstly, we will take a packet of grains, and then we will spread this packet of grain on a sheet of paper. Are these pieces of stone, husk, broken grain, and particles of any another grain in it? So firstly, we will purchase a packet of grains, and then we will put all the grains on a sheet of paper, and then what we will see are the particles of stone and husk and broken grains, and particles of another grain is present in it. Now what we will do, now remove with your hand the pieces of stone, husk and other grains from it. So one by one, we will remove these pieces with the help of stone. Firstly, we will remove with your hand and the pieces of stone and the husk and another grains from it. So firstly, we will take a packet of grains, and then we will spread this packet of grain on a sheet of paper. And then what we will see is a pieces of stone, husk and broken grain is present in it. Then we will remove these unwanted substance with the help of our hands. And this process is called hand picking. If we remove unwanted particles, just like stone, just like husk, just like broken grain, just like particles of any another grain, so we will remove it. If we will remove it with the help of our hands, so this process is called hand picking. So this method of hand picking can be used for separating slightly larger size impurities like the pieces of dirt, stone and husk from the wheat, rice or pulses. So this method of picking is very useful if if the particle of dust is present in it in the larger quantity, just like dirt, stone, and husk, and its size is very larger. If its size is very larger, then then the pieces of dirt, stone, and husk is if the particles of dirt, stone, and husk is present in the wheat, rice, or pulses, then what we will do, we will use the process of hand picking. If the pieces of impurities is very small, then the method of hand picking cannot be used in. So the method of hand picking is used if the particles is present in the large size impurities. If the size of impurity is very less, then it is in such a situation, in such situation, we find that hand picking is a convenient method of separating substances. So what is the process of hand picking? And the process of hand picking, in the process of hand picking, we will separate the process, we will separate unwanted substances just like dirt, stone, and husk from the wheat and rice. We will remove it with the help of our hands. So this process is called hand picking. If impurity size is very small, then hand picking cannot be used. So what is the condition for hand picking? The size of impurity should be larger. If the size and quantity of such impurity is not very large, there are two conditions for hand picking. The quantity of impurity is not very large, and the size of impurity is very larger. So there are two conditions for hand picking. You have to remember these two conditions of hand picking. First is the quantity of impurity is usually not very large, and the quantity of impurity is not very large. And second is the pieces of dirt, stone, and husk are present in very are not present are very large in quantity, are very large size in quantity, and it's firstly, you have to remember the two conditions of hand picking. Firstly, the size of impurity is not very, the quantity of impurity is not very large, and size of the substance, unwanted substance is larger. So you have to remember these two conditions for hand picking. And next is threshing. You must have seen bundles of wheat or paddy stalks lying in the fields after harvesting the crop, and stalks are dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them. So you have to remember the process of threshing. What do you mean by threshing? You must have seen bundles of wheat or paddy stalks lying in the field. So next separation method is threshing. First method is hand picking. And what do you mean by hand picking? The process of separation of impurities by the hands is called hand picking. And next is what is the process? What is the next process? Threshing. You must have seen bundles of wheat or paddy stalks lying in the field after after the harvesting the crop. So we have learned about this process. When we harvest the crops, then stalks are present in crops. And these types of stalks are dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them. So what do you mean by process threshing? The process that is used to separate grain from the stalk is called threshing. So what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grains from the stalk is called threshing. Just like shown in the figure 5.4, we are separating grains from the stalk with the help of hands or by hammering. This process is called threshing. And threshing can be done with the help of bullocks. And if bullocks is not present, we can do the with threshing with the help of machines. So threshing can be done with the help of bullocks or with the help of machines. So what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grains from the stalk is called threshing. The process that is used to separate grains from the stalk is called threshing. So this is called threshing. So stalks are dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them, and each stalk has many grain seeds attached to it. And imagine the number of grain seeds in hundreds of bundles of stalks lying in the field. And how does the farmer separate grain seeds from those bundles of stalk? So firstly, we will take stalks, and we have seen stalks dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them. And we will take one stalk, and then we will attach many stalks together, and imagine the number of grain seeds in hundred of bundles of stalk present. So in each stalk, there are so many grains are present. So we cannot separate it with the help of our hands. So what we will take, we will use the bullocks, and bullocks will pressurize on these on the bullocks will pressurize on the stalks, and the grains are separated from the stalks. So this process is called threshing. One may pluck mango and guava from the trees, but grain seeds are much smaller than mangoes or guavas. So plucking them from their stalks would be impossible. How does one separate grain seeds from their stalks? So you have to pluck mangoes or guava from the trees, but grain seeds are much smaller than mangoes or guavas. As we know, the size of grain seeds is very smaller as compared to the mango or guava. So plucking them from the stalks, it would be impossible. So how can we separate grains from their stalks? With the help of bullocks. And this process is called threshing. And threshing can be done with the help of bullocks or with the help of machines. So this process is called threshing. So what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grains from the stalks is called threshing. And where stalks is present, stalks are dried firstly in the sun before the grain is separated from them. As we know, each stalk has many grain seeds attached to it, and you have to imagine the number of grain seeds in hundred of bundles of stalks lying in the field. We have seen many bundles of stalk present in the field. And how can we separate these seeds? So we can separate these seeds with the help of bullocks. Bullock will pressurize these stalks, and then the grains are separated. And either it can be done with the help of machines. One may pluck mango or guava from the trees. We can pluck mangoes from the trees, but grain seeds are very smaller as compared to mangoes. So they're plucking them with the stalks. It would be impossible. So how can we separate grain seeds from their stalks? So we can separate these seeds from their stalks with the help of machines or with the help of bullocks. And this process is called threshing. And what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grains from the stalks is called threshing. And the process that is used to separate grain from the stalks is called threshing. Sometimes threshing is done with the help of bullocks, and threshing can be done with the help of bullocks, and machines are also used for the threshing. And this is the process of threshing. You have to remember the definition of threshing. The process that is used to separate grain from the stalks is called threshing. And how can threshing can be done? Threshing can be done with the help of bullocks, and it can be done with the help of machines. So there are two methods of threshing, either with the help of machines or either with the help of bullocks. And how can we separate these seeds from the stalk? Bullocks will pressurize on the stalks, and then the grain is separated from the stalk. So why we cannot use the process of hand picking for the separation of grains from the stalk? Because in each stalk so many grains are present, so we cannot separate it with the help of our hands, and so we cannot use in this the process of hand picking. So this is the process of threshing. ग्रेन्स के जो बड़े बड़े स्टॉक्स होते हैं उसको हमने अगर सेपरेट करना है तो इसको हमने क्या करना पड़ेगा, इसको हम या तो उसको किसी भी हम पत्थर के ऊपर इसको हैमर करेंगे तो ग्रेन्स उसके सेपरेट हो जाएंगे. एंड सेकंड जो हमारा मेथड है, हमारा क्या है, सेकंड थ्रेशिंग का मेथड जो हमारा क्या है कि वो जो हमारे जो ग्रेन्स है हमारे कैसे सेपरेट होंगे, विद द हेल्प ऑफ बुलॉक्स. बुलॉक्स इसके ऊपर जो है बार बार मूव करेंगी, and then these grains are separated from the stalks. So this is called threshing. And what is the next process? Winnowing. So this is the third process of separation. And what do you mean by winnowing? In the process of winnowing, we use wind. In the process of winnowing, we use wind. So what do you mean by winnowing? This is the activity 3. Make a mixture of dry sand with sawdust or powdered dry leaves. So what is the activity 3? Make a mixture of dry sand with sawdust or powdered dry leaves. Firstly, we will make a mixture of dry sand with the sawdust or powdered dry leaf. And what do you mean by the process of what is the process of winnowing? And what is the activity 3? Firstly, we will make a mixture of dry sand with sawdust or powdered dry leaves. Firstly, we will take dry leaves and we will take dry sand, and then we will make a mixture of dry sand with the dry leaves. And then what we will do? Keep the mixture on a plate or a newspaper. Firstly, we will take a mixture of the two substances, and then we will put this mixture either on a plate or either on a newspaper. And look at this mixture carefully. Can the two different components be made out easily? Are the size of particles of two components similar? Would it be possible to separate the components by hand picking? So firstly, we will make a mixture of two substances, and then we will put this mixture on a plate or a newspaper. And then we will see this mixture carefully. Can the two different components be made out easily? Are the size of particles of components similar? Would it be possible to separate the components by hand picking? So firstly, we will make the mixture of dry sand with the dry leaves. And the size of dry sand is very small, and dry leaves are bigger as compared to the dry sand. So how can we separate them? Can the two different components be made out easily? Now take your mixture to an open ground. So first, then we will take this mixture to open ground, and we will stand on a raised platform as shown in the figure 5.5. We will sit on the raised platform as shown in the figure 5.5, and we will stand on a raised platform, and we will put the mixture in a plate or a sheet of paper. So firstly, we will make a mixture of dry sand and dry leaves. And then we will put this mixture on a plate or paper. And then hold the plate or sheet of paper. Then we will take this mixture in our hands. And then we will take it at a height and tilt it slightly so that the mixture slides off easily. Just like shown in the figure 5.5, we will tilt this mixture and we will tilt this mixture, and what will happen? Then the mixture is separated. The dry sand and dry leaves is separated with the help of air. With the help of wind or air, the mixture is separated. What happens to both the components, sand and sawdust, fall at the same place? Is there a component that blows away? So with the help of wind, the mixture of sand and dust is separated, and sand and sawdust is separated from the mixture with the help of wind. And this method is called winnowing. So the method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. So the method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. Winnowing is used to have separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. So what is the process of winnowing? The method of separating components of a mixture. So the method of separating components of a mixture from the wind from a mixture is called winnowing. And how can winnowing be done? Winnowing is done with the help of wind. And winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components. So it is used if one component is heavier and if second component is lighter. And with the help of wind, we can separate heavier and lighter components. So this is the process of winnowing. Figure 5.5. It is the process of winnowing. We are separating two substances. One is bigger and second is heavier with the help of wind. So husk and grain is separated with the help of wind. In the figure 5.5, husk and grain is separated. Husk and grain is separated with the help of wind in the figure 5.5. So in the figure 5.5, husk and grain is separated. So this method is commonly used by farmers. So this is used by the farmers and it is used to separate a lighter husk particles from the heavier seeds of the grains. As husk particles are lighter, as shown in the figure 5.5, husk particles are lighter, so husk particles is separated. Husk particle is separated because husk particles is lighter as compared to the husk particle is lighter, so it is separated from these substances. So this is the process of winnowing. So this is the process of winnowing. And what is the process of winnowing? The method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. And what is the process winnowing? It is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture with the help of wind or with the help of blowing air. So this is the process of winnowing. And with the help of wind, we can separate husk from the grains. We can separate husk from the grain with the help of wind. And this is the process of winnowing. And next is the method is commonly used by the farmers to separate lighter husk particles from the heavier seeds of the grain. So as we know, the size of husk particle is very lighter. They are very lighter as compared to the seeds. So lighter husk particles is separated with the help of wind as shown in the figure 5.5. Husk is separated from the grain with the help of wind, and husk is lighter as compared to the grain. So this is what is the method of winnowing. Winnowing method is used if one particle is larger as compared to the another. If, uh, if one particle is larger as compared to the another, then this process is used. And what is the process of winnowing? The method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. So the process of separating the components of a mixture is called winnowing. So this is the process of winnowing. And winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by the wind or by blowing air. So this is the process of winnowing. The method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. And winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components with the help of wind. So this is the process of winnowing. So first process is hand picking, and next process is threshing, and next is winnowing. And what do you mean by hand picking? If we separate two substances with the help of our hands, so this process is called hand picking. And what are the two conditions of hand picking? So hand picking is used if the impurity size is very larger. If the size of impurity is very larger, then hand picking is used. And next is the quantity of such impurity is usually not very large. So if the quantity of such impurity is usually not very large, so in this situation, the hand picking is used. So what is the process of hand picking? The method of hand picking can be used for separating slightly larger impurities as just like dirt from the substances. And what are the conditions of hand picking? The size of impurity should be larger and the quantity of impurities is usually not very large. So this is the process of hand picking. And what is the next process? Threshing. What is the next process? Threshing. And what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grains from the stalk. So the process that is used to separate grain from the stalk is called threshing. So in the figure, man is using the process of threshing to separate grains from the stalk. To separate grain from the stalk, we are using the process threshing. Why we cannot use the process of hand picking to separate grain from the stalk? Because quantity of grain is very large, so we cannot separate it with the help of our hands. So how it can be separated? It can be separated with the help of bullocks, or it can be separated with the help of machines. So this process, the process that is used to separate grains from the stalk is called threshing. So we can pluck mango from the trees because they are very larger, but grain seeds are not plucking from the trees or from the field because they are very small in size. And so plucking them with the stalk is impossible. So what do you mean by threshing? The process that is used to separate grain from the stalk is called threshing. So sometimes threshing is done with the help of bullocks, and threshing can be done with the help of bullocks. And machines are also used for the process of threshing. And next process is called winnowing. And what is the activity 3? Make a mixture of dry sand with the sawdust or powdered dry leaves and keep this mixture on a plate or a newspaper. Look at this mixture carefully, and can the two different components be made out easily? And are the sizes of particles of the two components similar? And would it be possible to separate the components by hand picking? So what is the process of threshing? The process that is used to separate grain from the stalk is called threshing. So in this process, the stalks are beaten to free the grain seeds. So firstly we will beat these grain seeds from the stalk, So we will use the phenomenon threshing, and it can be done either with the help of bullocks or either with the help of machines. And next separation process is winnowing. And how in what cases winnowing is used? If one particle is heavier as compared to the another, so this process is used. The process of separating heavier particle from the lighter particle with the help of wind is called winnowing. So what is the activity 3? Firstly, we will take dry sand and we will mix it with the dry leaves. And we will mix dry leaves with the dry sand. And then we will take this mixture on a plate or either on the newspaper. And now what we will do, then what we will do, what is the process? Then we will tilt this. Are the size of particles of two components similar? Would it be possible to separate the components by hand picking? Now take your mixture to an open ground and stand on a raised platform and put the mixture on a plate or a sheet of paper and hold the plate or the sheet of paper containing the mixture at your shoulder height. Tilt it slightly so that the mixture slides off easily. So firstly, we will take this mixture or open ground and stand on a raised platform. So firstly, we will take the mixture and we will, the process or method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. So the method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing, and it is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture with the help of wind or with the help of blowing air. So the method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing, and it is used to separate heavier and lighter components with the help of wind or with the help of blowing air. So in the figure 5.5, winnowing process is showing. So firstly, we will take husk and grain mixture, and husk is lighter as compared to grain. So husk and grain is separated from the mixture and with the help of wind, and this process is called winnowing. So this process is called winnowing, and the method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. Winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components. So winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components with the help of wind or with the help of blowing air. So this process is called winnowing. So this process is called winnowing, in which lighter particles and heavier particles are separated with the help of wind. So this is the process of winnowing. Sand and sawdust, and it is used to separate sand and neem leaves. So if we put these mixture on the plate and then we will tilt it and we will stand on the height as shown in the figure 5.5, then the mixture is separated with the help of wind. So this process is called winnowing. And what is the next process is sieving. And in the next lecture, we will discuss about sieving, and what we will discuss sedimentation, filtration, and decantation. So you have to remember three processes. First process is hand picking, and then is threshing, and then is hand picking, then is threshing. So this is the method of separation. You have to remember the methods of separation. So you have to remember the methods of separation, hand picking, and you have to remember the process of threshing. And the next process is called winnowing. So this is the methods of separation. You have to remember. So if you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask. If you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask. Akash sir, please unmute students. Akash sir, please unmute students. Akash sir, please unmute